During the movie, specifically at the beginning and the end, there are two huge spoilers about what could be the near future of the MCU. In just a moment, I'll break down these reveals and more about the ending of Captain America: Brave New World. Hi guys and welcome to Pizza Plot. One of the biggest MCU releases for 2025 has just come out. Of course, I'm talking about Captain America: Brave New World, the latest chapter in the saga. The big difference between this film and the previous ones is its protagonist. This time, it's not Steve Rogers' Captain America, but Sam Wilson's. Today, I'll be breaking down the movie's ending to answer all the lingering questions it leaves behind. Of course, I'll also dive into the post-credit scene and try to come up with some interesting theories together. As always, don't forget to leave a like to support the channel and drop your rating from 1 to 10 for this new Captain America in the comments. And without further ado, let's dive right in. To fully break down the ending, we first need to go over what happens in the final scenes of the movie. So what goes down at the end? President Thaddeus Ross, who has been on the verge of transforming throughout the entire film, is finally cornered by the press as they begin uncovering details about his dark actions over the past years. Ross tries to keep control, but under the pressure of the journalists, he undergoes his long-awaited transformation into Red Hulk. His body, now completely out of control, becomes a massive threat to Washington, D.C. and the entire government. Sam Wilson, as Captain America, takes on Ross in an intense battle through the streets of the Capitol. Despite Red Hulk's overwhelming physical strength, Sam uses strategy and agility to counter him, skillfully maneuvering with his shield and enhanced wings to dodge devastating attacks. During the fight, the new Cap tries to talk Ross down, appealing to his emotions, but the former general's rage makes him seemingly unstoppable. However, the location of their battle stirs up memories for Ross, which helps calm him down long enough to be neutralized. The film ends with Sam visiting the Raft, the high-security prison where Ross has been locked up. And on top of all that, there's the post-credit scene, which we'll dive into in just a moment. With all that in mind, the first question I want to answer is this: who is the real villain of the movie, and what is his plan? This Captain America installment stands out from most typical MCU films precisely because it lacks a clear-cut villain from start to finish. At first we see Sidewinder, the mercenary played by the great Giancarlo Esposito, but he ends up being pretty insignificant for most of the movie. Then of course there's Ross himself, who not only has a shady past, but also transforms into Red Hulk, wreaking havoc. However, the true villain of the film is Samuel Stearns, as he's the mastermind behind all the crimes committed. That said, he's still an unusual villain, partly because he never actually fights the protagonist, and partly because his plan comes across as somewhat shallow and in some ways, pointless. For anyone who didn't fully grasp the sequence where his plan is explained, here's a quick breakdown, along with some of its major flaws. Stearns' goal is to make Ross pay. Years ago, after Stearns was exposed to gamma radiation, he mutated, becoming physically deformed but incredibly intelligent. Ross then locked him up in a lab and exploited his genius for years. In fact, we learn that all of Ross's political maneuvers were actually devised by Stearns, who thanks to his advanced mind, can predict the most probable moves of his enemies. And this is where the problem with his plan comes in. It's oddly convoluted for someone so intelligent. When Ross comes to him for help with a heart condition, Stearns gives him pills that do save him, but secretly introduce gamma radiation into his bloodstream. Over the course of months, maybe even years, this exposure leads Ross to transform into a new version of Hulk, unleashing chaos. According to Stearns, this would expose Ross's true tyrannical and violent nature to the entire world. But honestly, this plan feels strange and pretty ineffective. Think about it. One of the smartest men in the world, who can even control people's minds remotely, chooses to orchestrate this massive convoluted scheme just to take down Ross. The entire subplot about the adamantium theft and the potential world war was apparently just a means to that one end. There were dozens of faster and more efficient ways to get revenge on Ross without dragging in the world's superpowers. That said, there's another major theme the movie touches on, one that could be a huge spoiler for the future of the MCU, even though it's not fully explained yet. I'm obviously talking about the whole adamantium situation. In the film, adamantium becomes a central plot element, with governments and secret organizations fighting for control over it. This power struggle creates geopolitical tensions and nearly sparks a new world war. But what exactly is adamantium? For those who don't know, it's a fictional metal from the Marvel Universe, known for being virtually indestructible. In the comics, it's the material used to coat Wolverine's skeleton, and also to forge the original Captain America shield. However, in the MCU, as mentioned multiple times, Captain America's shield is made of vibranium. In the MCU timeline, adamantium was indirectly mentioned for the first time after the events of Eternals, when the fossilized body of the celestial Tiamut emerged from the Indian Ocean. This is the same celestial we see in the film's ending, and it's referenced throughout the movie. So in this universe and timeline, adamantium is a brand new material that hasn't been used yet. And for those who didn't catch the significance, this is a major spoiler for what's to come. When we talk about adamantium, it's impossible not to think of Wolverine, who, let's remember, doesn't officially exist in the MCU yet. The version we've seen in Deadpool and Wolverine, or even in the Wolverine trilogy, isn't the official MCU version of the character. If the MCU is introducing adamantium now, it's almost certain that Wolverine will make his debut soon, maybe sooner than we think, and with him, the X-Men and the entire mutant storyline will finally come into play. In fact, the idea of mutants has already been subtly hinted at in some MCU series, like Ms. Marvel. Let's wrap things up by talking about a scene that is definitely intriguing but also cryptic, considering that on the surface, it doesn't reveal much. Of course, I'm talking about the post-credit scene. In this scene, Sam Wilson visits the Raft and has a brief conversation with Samuel Stearns, Stearns. Stearns warns him to be very careful because the threats they've faced so far are nothing compared to what's coming. Specifically, he says, all the heroes protecting this world, do you think they're the only ones? Do you think this is the only world? Let's see what happens when you have to protect this place from the others. This statement could have two meanings, one more immediate and likely, and another that's less probable, but quite interesting. Starting with the second theory, Stearns' words could be teasing the announcement of one of the MCU's most rumored and anticipated films, World War Hulk. This project, which hasn't been officially announced yet due to certain rights issues, is expected to feature a cast of different Hulks from various realities, battling each other and more. Given that Stearns has been experimenting with the serum for years, he could be aware of these different versions and might be warning Sam about the incoming danger. However, I'm not entirely convinced by this theory. Sure, World War Hulk is likely to happen, and Stearns may have a role in it, but in this case, I don't think his words are referring to that. After all, these Hulks, if they appear, would likely come from different parts of the MCU's known universe, rather than an external larger-scale threat. Instead, his words seem to hint at something much bigger and more distant. Almost without a doubt, this moment marks the beginning of the end of the multiverse saga, which has been unfolding for years. Stearns' statement is essentially laying the groundwork for the next Avengers films, and ultimately, the conclusion of the multiversal storyline. We already know, this is official, that the upcoming Avengers Secret Wars will bring the multiverse arc to a close. In this context, the incursions Stearns refers to likely point to the countless universes within the multiverse, universes filled with infinite heroes and villains, all set to clash in the two already announced Avengers films. Naturally, this small spoiler about the future of the MCU only prepares us for the next major event, which now seems closer than ever. And who will be the key figure behind the threat Stearns is teasing? Dr. Doom, of course. As we know, he will be played by Robert Downey Jr., though he has yet to make his official MCU debut. Considering all of this, I have a prediction. In the post-credit scene of the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, which is set to release this summer, we will see Dr. Doom for the very first time. So will Sam Wilson be the one to reunite the Avengers for these highly anticipated films? Even though, to be honest, I'm still not entirely convinced by Sam as Captain America, this new movie strongly suggests that he will. That's why I believe that over the next few MCU projects, this new Avengers lineup will slowly start to take shape. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new Marvel movie. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any future content, especially if you're passionate about movies and TV shows. As always, thanks for watching. Bye guys, see you in the next video.